So, Happy New Year's, first and foremost, everyone. Hopefully everyone had a great break, and thanks for coming to see what's new basically in 2021 for AutoCAD. Just in case you're not aware, we do try and be that one-stop shop for our clients. So whether it be consulting or education or even IT management. And we also, we have a big footprint in the ANZ region. We also partner with a lot of major software partners. So basically we just try and help you guys out as best we can. So let's just kind of dive into it. I'll just do a live webinar. So some of the good features that we have, I think that the major one that I'll show you that I think is very handy, that I know I personally use a lot, and that's the manage revisions. So like, let's say, for example, our client wanted to change the kitchen. Usually whenever, the way that I'd work personally would be, if I did need to change anything, I'd just select what I needed. I'd copy paste it up to the top and just move it out of the way just in case. I'm not sure if any of you guys had that similar workflow, but sometimes we do have those clients who constantly change their mind. So for example, we'll just say that these clients wanted that open plan. Then they came back to us and said, actually, we kind of want our kitchen to be a bit closed off. So if we just go into our view, we have these two new buttons here. So I'll show the Dwg Compare in a second, but we have our Dwg History. So it should be showing up here, and it's not. Oh, there we go. So let's say the one that I worked on back in October. If I just click on this little button here, we can start to compare the drawings. Okay, so this one didn't have, oh, that one had that change. I'll just find a different one with the kitchen changed. Just a second. There we go. So as you can see, we have this new little area. You can move this around, put it on a different screen if you need to. But we can see that there's everything that's in red is not in the current drawing. The green is what's currently in the drawing, and then these are no differences. So maybe I'll just turn that off so we can kind of see the area that we're working with. So at the moment, these are what we've made changes to, and this is what the client actually wants to go back to that we had to change before. So the convenient thing about that is we could just go here, we can just delete that out, and then we'll just turn this on, and we just have this little import button here, which we can just say we want to import this back into the model. And let's see as well, and we just press enter. And now you'll notice everything's gone, but that's because we don't have any differences. And if we just hit that check mark, now our drawing has changed. So very quickly, we don't have to worry about aligning anything and moving stuff out of the way and constantly compiling stuff. We could just compare it to our old versions, and it just remembers all these different dates. Similarly, we can do a Dwg Compare, and now it does actually work with OneDrive. So I have my little OneDrive folder here. So maybe I'll just pick this one, and I can compare all the differences. Same thing, the red and the green, and the grays are grayed out. So for example, for my other file, my other version of that file, I just have an XREF in here that's changed, and the changes that we just did right now. So very quickly, we can start to compare our DWGs, and it just expedites our workflow. They have also changed the revision clouds, whether or not you guys use that, but just in our annotate tab, we have our little revision cloud. And maybe I'll just make it a rectangle, and I'll say that I changed this. And this is now its own entity. So it's not like a polyline anymore. It's actually like a revision cloud. And let me just open up the actual properties. And if we didn't like those arcs, we can actually change them to maybe a 2000. And you'll see it starts to change our revision bubbles as necessary. Another handy one that we have now is our, it's a measurement tool, and it's just a lot more powerful. So it's in that same area, but you'll notice that it's a measure geom now. And as we start to kind of hover over our area, it starts to give us all these dimensions. So we don't have to start to like check our distances or anything anymore. It's already built into it. And as we start moving, this one obviously has a lot of grids, so it'd be easier if it was a more cleaned up model, but that's right. And you can also see, let me just zoom in. You can also see this little 90-degree angle. So it's basically just telling you that these are perfect 90-degree angles. If we do hold shift, we can start to get the air. Let me find a better area. We can start to calculate the areas. Unfortunately, it is in millimeters squared, but if I keep holding my shift, I can start to select these different areas. And you'll notice it does pick up on all the lines. But at least that's a lot faster now than actually doing the area command. You can also, within this, you'll see at the bottom, like for example, we can still do our distances. So if we just click on our distance and we just want to like maybe select one of the lines, we can use that tool. As you do select something different though, that will go away. So just take note of that. And again, our area tool, just like we're normally used to where we select our areas, it'll be the same thing. And then you could just exit that if you wanted to, or go back. Just put that back. Yeah, so just if you click that quick after you finish playing with all those, just click on quick and it'll go back to this like quick snapping. Another improvement that there was the trim command. So let me just make some scribbles here. So the trim command's a lot smarter now, whereas before we had to select kind of what we wanted to do. Now it's smart enough to know that if there is some sort of breakage, it will actually be smart enough to know that. And again, if we just hold our shift, we can bring that back. If you aren't a fan of this one, it also has this little fence tool instead of the fence command. If you aren't a fan of it, you can actually change it just by going to mode and go back to standard. You just need to kind of exit out of it. And now if I go to trim, you'll see that it says select the objects, which will bring it back to that old mode. And then again, we can just select mode, quick, and it'll go back to this new one. Yeah, it's much smarter now. Another great tool is that you can actually go on to CAD on any device. I'll show you guys a video just because it's a bit hard to show live. And there won't be any sound, but don't worry about it. It's just music. So you're not missing anything. And I'll just quickly play that. So yeah, that's just a little quick video. So basically, yeah, so there's that OneDrive integration and a Dropbox as well. Then you can also view it on your iPad, like through that AutoCAD web app. And then another one, 2020 had it, but then 2021 just came out with a little bit of an extra one. So in the insert, you guys might be used to this classic one. So I just created a button just because it's easier for me. If you do want to find out how to do these extra customized buttons, I did go through it in one of our previous webinars, and I'll talk about that in a bit later. But maybe you're used to this one. So the new one is actually this kind of insert. And in 2020, it has just these three, but 2021 brought in libraries. So that's pretty convenient because now we can basically just find a folder, and every single thing that's in that one will have, like, that's where you can basically store it. But you can also maybe browse and put your block library perhaps on your OneDrive. So if I went to my OneDrive, for example, I don't have a block library on here, but you can see there is that connection there. So everyone can be connected to that block library and pulling out those blocks from that live location that you guys have on the cloud. So that's an extra little button, or tab rather, that's in 2021 now. Just quickly on that, if we go into our manage and then edit aliases, the measured geometry, just down here, the measured geom one, basically, if you put anything that you want to change, like for example, I didn't like that C kept going a circle, so I changed that to copy, and same with the I, instead of that new insert, I changed it to classic insert. So you can start to play around with stuff like this. ME is actually the old measurement tool, so that's why, and MEA is this new one. So that's why I kind of just changed it. So if you guys did, we did go through this in the other webinar, so you can see more about that there, but I'll just quickly show you here. So these are that's that original one, and this is the new one for 2021. So that's why I basically just changed it, just so that I could use it faster. And this can also be saved on a network. Maybe if you're training new people to be using your kind of workflow, just double check that that's wherever you're saving it is somewhere that's accessible, because at the moment it goes to its default location. And then basically everyone in the office could be using that same one, but just make sure that you're not changing something that someone else might not be used to. But that's just something to note that could be implemented just to expedite your workflow in the office. Tool palettes are also relatively new. 2020 had it, and then 2021 also has it. So I'll just quickly bring that up just to show you guys. So again, we can have all these different tool palettes in here, and this just makes it kind of easier to drag and drop the blocks. So whether you want to drag and drop them from, just a second, from here, let me just pick a better one. So whether you want to drag and drop them from here or make it easier and drag and drop it from here. There is also, and similar to what I just showed with those commands, in here you can start to, let me just find it, tool palettes here. So at the moment I just have it for these ones that I needed, but if I did change it, I basically just made, this is where the Autodesk ones are sitting. So if I just go here, open and apply, you'll notice that it starts to populate them. So take advantage of these, because Autodesk does have a bunch of different blocks that are already in here. A lot of them are dynamic. So if I just put this door in, for example. So they're pretty smart already. So take advantage. See if I click these arrows and I can extend it certain distances. So take advantage. And then if you do find ones that you want, you can clean it up in the back end so that you just don't have a bunch of them. I probably wouldn't delete, you can delete them, but I wouldn't delete them from here just because it'll be a pain to get them back. But clean it up in the back end and then just link it through the options. I'll just show you that again. In our tool palettes here. And I'll just go back to here that I was working on, for example. And now it's just cleaned up and using the stuff that I need instead. And lastly, we have our collaboration. So we have our shared views. So I'll just open this up. So you'll see I kind of just shared a view. Maybe I wanted to send it to someone that doesn't have CAD, but you can just create a free Autodesk account and you could just look at that viewer. So maybe I wanted to tell them, like, tell the client basically, look at this area. So I just create a new shared view and it ends up going into, oops, just a second. My buttons are in the way. There. It ends up going to a free viewer basically online. And this is where the client can start to look around and have a look. You can see all the different layers. If they wanted to turn stuff on and off, they can. So it still kind of works like it. You can see the different views. You can start to add comments as well, and start to kind of talk there. It's pretty limited in what you can do, but there are still tools that people could use, and you can start to kind of collaborate a bit faster if they don't have CAD. So those are all the new features. I'll just go here. If I did see some questions pop up, I'll just pause this so I can read them. And if you have any questions, please just start to throw them in. Rod asked, how do you save the previous version? So just like you normally would, as soon as you press save, it starts to compile them. So every time I pressed save and I did some work, it would just start to archive them all, and then I can start to backdate and start to look at all the stuff that I've done. Peter's asking about the version compare ignoring autosave. I haven't noticed it, to be honest. That's a good question. Let me quickly open up my CAD and have a look at it. I think it depends how often you have your autosave on, because I'm pretty sure I tweaked my settings. Yeah, I think it's a full save from what it looks like in my history from all the days that I've worked on it. I'm pretty sure it's just your full save. Oh, there's chat as well. Let me just check the chat. Okay, there's a question about reversing the revision clouds. I'm just checking the properties now. I know you can start to tweak all the little vertices and connections for sure, and the arcs. Let me just quickly play around with it. I don't see it in the properties, but I'll have a look for you and then I'll let you know. Let me just screenshot so that I can send you an email about it. Okay. Update in real time from the mobile app. Do you need to have it linked to OneDrive or the cloud? Yeah, so it needs to have that connection. The reason I ask is the company I work for. Yeah, I'd say it would need to be stored there. I'm just trying to think how, because you guys keep it on a server as well. Maybe send through an email of kind of that scenario to us, or even send it to support@a2ktechnologies.com.au, and I'll have a look at that. That way we can just discuss it a bit better, just because it's a bit catered to you guys. Is there a new feature for Sheet Set Manager? Not that I saw. But I'll have a look at it now. I don't believe there was anything extra added to it. I think it's just drawing history, XREF compare, the block palette, and then some performance stuff in the background. Then basically on any device, cloud storage, the measurement, and then comparing the DWGs and the shared view. Those are basically the new ones. I'll quickly just share this. I'll resume my share. Okay. On our website, we also have more examples of this. So there's some extra stuff that Autodesk has made if you guys did want to look at more videos. So basically everything that we've went through today, just some other examples. So everything is on here as well. And that video that I showed you is just down here. I just saw some more Q&A questions pop up. Let me just post that. There. Okay. Let me just make sure that I didn't re-answer these in the other one. Okay. Asher asked about the compare changes cloud settings to automatically create revision clouds. Not that I've seen, but I think you might be able to do something with the macro manager. In the last webinar, I did go through that one. It'd be something obviously I'd have to look into, but it could be something along the lines of if you are using something and constantly doing that type of work, it will start to remember. You can basically just record your steps and it'll remember what you're doing. So you can create it into a macro / a command. So it could pick up what you're doing and then create those revision clouds on that as well. Something that would have to look into, but I'm sure it can be done. Rob asked about the geo referencing. I have seen someone ask us about that, but I don't know what the answer was to that because it ended up getting sent to our civil guy. I will write that down though, and I'll screenshot that just so that I can send it to our guy and get you that answer because I know we have looked into it. I'll save that and get an email sent to you about that. Okay, and then there was a question about the previous webinars. So I think that's all of them now. Yep. Let me just resume here and go back to my slides. So this is what we did in the previous one. So we went through dynamic blocks, express tools, action recorder. So that's actually, that's what I kind of mentioned, that action recorder. Sheet sets, CUI manipulation. So that was kind of those commands that I showed you. And then that classic insert button. We kind of went through how you can make your own buttons for stuff. We went through some parametric functionality as well. So that kind of included some Civil 3D and Dynamo stuff. So it's a bit high level, but there are some really cool things that you can do with it. So just make sure to check out our YouTube channel and I'll show you that in a second. And then we did have a part 2, which was basically, we kind kind of touched on the new features that we said here. Some commands that people aren't aware of, so just to expedite some workflow. We also started to look at auditing blocks because a lot of people had questions about the dynamic blocks that we went through, so kind of just touched on that. There's also some hatch tricks that people wanted to know about, so we went through that. And there's actually a lot of commands that we can use to help us with hatches and dimensions. We even created basically a smart dimensioning tool that knows as soon as you use the command, it will put it into the correct layer and the correct colors and font and everything for that. And then a bit more parametric functionality because people like that Dynamo stuff. And then also showing how you can be parametric without scripting. And then some of the last frequently asked questions from the last webinar. So just make sure to go to our YouTube here. And maybe you missed other webinars. Basically, all of our recordings will be here. So make sure to go here. So that's that part 2 that I kind of just discussed. Part 1 is here. But yeah, if you're interested in other types of software, all of our webinars are recorded and we just put them into here and compile it. And then again, if you do have questions, just reach out to us. We're always happy to help. So yeah, so if you did want to find out about other events, just go to this website here. So just atktechnologies.com.au/events, and you'll be able to register and see them all. And then I know you might get some marketing emails from us as well. So just make sure to read them and you can see that. I'll just pause this again. And there's a few more questions. Let me just look. Just clean this up a little bit, just a second. Oh, can you share part of the model space with shared views? Yeah, so as soon as you'll notice I kind of messed up actually on the one that I did share. Let me just go to here. I actually did cut it off by accident. So it does take, see, I missed part of the bottom. So I just basically just didn't zoom properly and it cut it off. So you can't start to share parts of it. And then it'll start to compile here. Let me just check the other questions quickly. Past webinars, we just said. Ian, I'll have a look at that one. So I'll take a screenshot of that as well and have a look for you. Okay, yep, I think that's all. Let me just check the chat. Yeah, okay, perfect. Let me just minimize everything. I think that's everything that we had. Yep, that's all. Okay, so yeah, so appreciate your time. Thanks for taking your lunch break to have a look. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email us through either at info@a2ktechnologies.com.au or even our support email as well. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the day and week and stay safe.